Republican voters. They don't care. They don't care. I mean, look, cut taxes, even if the deficit increases. You know, you go back 33 years ago, it was just 22% who said cut taxes, even if the deficit increases. But the party of fiscal responsibility is no more. Now, 74% of Republicans say cut taxes, even if deficit increases.
Now, while working class Republicans might absolutely love the idea of seeing their taxes cut, it appears that according to new polling from Quinnipiac, the majority of Americans do not favor Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill. And at the same time, he is deciding to, in a very petty way, go after Republican lawmakers who are standing in the way of the passage of said big, beautiful bill. So we're gonna give you an update on Senator Rand Paul and Republican Congressman Thomas Massie in just a minute. But first, some details on this poll. So when it comes to how Americans feel about it, whether they support the big, beautiful bill, only 27%, according to this Quinnipiac poll, say they support it. 53% oppose the big, beautiful bill. 20% not so sure. They offered no opinion. Now, let's get to what the latest is, right? So while 67% of Republicans support the bill, so if you kind of break it down based on partisanship, still enjoys some favorability among Republican voters. High numbers of Republicans also support keeping Medicaid funding at current levels, which of course this bill seeks to change and cut. So 21% believe that it should increase. These are Republicans, guys, Republicans. Turns out a lot of them are actually in need of Medicaid. So 21% believe it should increase, 56% believe it should stay about the same, 18% believe it should decrease, 4% offered no opinion. And look, combined, 77% of Republicans believe federal Medicaid funding, should either be increased or should not be cut at all. Now, Americans also care much more about the issue of Medicaid than the issue of increasing the deficit, which is basically what you saw in the video featuring Harry Enton earlier. And the deficit is what Republican opponents of the quote unquote big, beautiful bill cite as their biggest concern. So I want to be clear here. It's not that the majority of Americans don't like the bill because it adds to the deficit. There are other reasons for why they don't like the bill, and it's tied to the cuts to our social safety net. Medicaid being one of them, yes, but also SNAP benefits have been targeted in this bill as well. And as we know, and as we shared with you earlier this week, the Senate is currently thinking of ways to make this bill a little less expensive. So they're targeting the tax cuts that would benefit service workers or American workers in general. So no tax on tips. They're looking to get rid of that, torpedo it from the bill. No tax on overtime, they're looking to torpedo that as well. Who knows what the final bill will look like after the Senate is done with it. But I think most Americans are wisening up to what the real priorities are here among our Republican lawmakers. Now, yesterday, we let you know that Senator Rand Paul was uninvited from the annual White House picnic. Massie has now suffered the same fate, writing on X, incredibly petty and short-sighted of Trump's staff to exclude Republicans from the annual White House picnic while inviting Pelosi and every Democrat. I always give my few tickets to my staff and their kids, but apparently this year my tickets have been withheld as well. Low class. Now, Trump is denying that he uninvited Rand Paul, though he hasn't mentioned Massie yet, so that's something to know. He wrote on social media that, of course, Senator Rand Paul and his beautiful wife and family are invited to the big White House party tonight. He's the toughest vote in the history of the US Senate, but why wouldn't he be? Besides, it gives me more time to get his vote on the great, big, beautiful bill. You guys get the point. And Paul responded by saying, this is a promising sign of things to come. And if there's one thing the president and I agree on, It's that my wife is my wife is beautiful. I'm sure your wife is beautiful. I wouldn't want Trump of all people to talk about the beauty of your wife, but okay, do you, boo? And then he posted this. Turns out my grandson is actually invited to the congressional picnic.
Oh my God, that's so embarrassing, dude.
Okay, I toss it over to you, Waz. Take it away.
So cringe. And it's just after his little mini press conference, making a show of himself, being disinvited from Donald Trump's Chuck E. Cheese birthday party, and complaining to his mom and dad. It's just so embarrassing. And now he's retweeting and quote tweeting. It's a joke. And to get back to the Medicaid portion of this, our audience knows traditionally before, third way Democratic Party thinking and triangulation and all the other neoliberal centrist crap that swept the party, the Democrats used to have a chokehold on the working class, broad coalition. Even when they would lose in the Senate, they would dominate the House. Like from FDR until Reagan, we're talking about basically 50 years uninterrupted domination of the House of Representatives, because as the founders intended, the House is like the portion of the government of the people. It's supposed to be the part that's closest and lowest to the ground. Well, since the Democrats for 30 years have decided to cede ground with working class voters, preferring suburban and more affluent voters that more aligned with their fancy degrees and college education and all of that stuff, guess what? Those working class voters did not cease to exist. They've become Republicans, and the people who use Medicaid are working class voters. So what does that mean? Like back in the 80s, yeah, you could probably demonize something like Medicaid or food stamps or something like that as a Republican to your entire base when you were a more affluent party. Now that a lot of your voters are closer to the ground, more down home voters, like this is actually a consideration. Like you can't just talk about welfare queens and people, suckling at the teat of the federal government as greedy and freeloading. No, those are your people. Okay.
That's such a good point. It really is, because, there has been a realignment. And when I say realignment, I'm not under any impression that the current Republican Party is the party of the working class.
No.
I know that it's not. However, working class voters have increasingly, flocked to the right specifically because of Donald Trump's, pro-economic populist messaging on the campaign trail. But when those policies don't actually come to fruition, and when the situation is far worse for working class Americans, well, there will be a reckoning for the Republican Party. The only problem is, like my heart breaks for working class Americans because there's nowhere to go right now. Nowhere. Yeah. The Democratic Party is not representative of the working class. Yes, you still have like a few lawmakers, a few people in Congress who say that they want to champion these policies that would be far more beneficial for working class Americans. But other than that, the whole of the Democratic establishment is basically the opposite. So, yeah.
Yeah, right. and this is a test, honestly, for Barry's sort of vision for the ACA, where because they were too corrupt to go with a public option for the people, they were like, yo, we're gonna do this Medicaid mandate, this state mandate. They get this free federal money, and eventually many of these conservative states caved, we're talking about the reddest states in the country, got their citizens on Medicaid, and they like it because it's a great program. And now we'll see if the theory of getting them on there is gonna protect it. We'll see if that theory holds. It looks like it's gonna be on a chopping block though.
Yep.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.